Welcome back to Movified. I'm your host, Mark Hirschi, owner of Sam Moving and Storage, located in lovely British Columbia, Vancouver. And today, I am pretty excited here because I have not just your salesperson that you see at the moving events, not just your, person that you finally get to do a demo with, but I actually have one of the chairmen and a recognized entrepreneur, Brian Hamilton, who sits on the chair for LiveSwitch, was one of the main, was a CEO of the company still, or was?
Well, actually, Michael Adams is, but the founder is actually in a place you're familiar with, Vancouver, Jared Venema. So it's a small world,
Yeah, I love that. We're going to want to talk about that because I love their previous name called Frozen Mountain.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So Brian's been part of this. Everybody that if you haven't been sleeping underneath a rock and you're in the moving industry, there is this amazing software out there called LiveSwitch, which is a live video software that's used by many moving companies to book more jobs. Brian also founded SageWorks, that's now called Abrigo. I remember when I was looking up SageWorks, I was like, is this Sage accounting? I don't understand, like what's happening here. But it's definitely not. It's not the same mix.
Right.
But it definitely works in the financial district, and definitely a lot about lending. We need to go into that, but it definitely was America's first fintech company, which I know about in my history. If you ever asked me about my background, I had a short stint at a fintech company, so that was really interesting. But he's helped millions of business owners understand their financial information. He also founded the Brian Hamilton Foundation and Inmates to Entrepreneurs, which is really exciting that I want to talk about too, promoting the power of ownership to transform lives. Brian's work has been featured in major outlets like CNBC and Good Morning America, and he starred in ABC's award-winning show Free Enterprise that touches base, I guess, on the inmates to entrepreneurs aspect of it. And now he gets to add on to his bio that he also was a guest on Movified. So, I mean, I don't know if you do that scale of high to low, but I think you were somewhere in the middle. So I really appreciate you, Brian, being on the show today.
Hey, no, you're wrong, Mark. You're on the top. You're a customer, man.
That's right.
It's rule number one. Go to your customer.
That's right. Yeah. So, and that was exciting too, because I've looked at, and I want to jump right into LiveSwitch because, the big exciting software that came out when I started looking at what AI was doing for the moving industry was a company called Yembo. You obviously know who Yembo is.
Yeah, that's right.
Yembo worked with a very AI artificial intelligence where your camera was building an inventory list of the items as you're going around the rooms. What I found, and this is my personal opinion and probably opinions of many others, is that as amazing as Yembo is, it's a complicated system, or it can be. It's also a very expensive system. So to me, as a moving company owner that deals mainly as a hometown dominator within a 30 to 40 mile radius within my vicinity, not more, and I'm talking our moving consultants that go out to their in-home estimates and people that we want to deal with, we're not going to be using something like Yembo because we're not really that much in the outskirts where we're constantly sending out quotes all the time. What I love about LiveSwitch is that the price point is there. It's something that you can totally afford. It's something that can be integrated within your website. Yembo can as well too. But I've taken it to a different level where I've used the services not just for my moving consultants, but also for my movers. So it's now an added tool where we have a QR code in the trucks. The guys can scan it. And if there is a damage, if there's an issue, there's many times with us as moving company owners, we're always like, guys, like, why didn't you take a photo? Oh, why didn't you just take out your phone and get the video? And they're like, yeah, but I don't have this newest smartphone. Or you finally get the video back and it's super grainy. The video quality or the photos were all blurred.
And it's also maybe not stored in one place too. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and that's the other issue too. So many times it's guys coming back to the office, bugging our admin staff and going, can you upload these photos? How can I transfer these 30 photos off to the side? And LiveSwitch has one spot, that you can have. It's a cloud-based system so that the videos and the photos all are taken care of at once, and you can document it towards its whether project, towards the customer's name. I think it's fantastic, and it's already working wonders within our organization. So kudos to you,
Thank
Brian.
you.
You probably weren't
Hey,
someone that was instrumental, but
you want a job?
I know, right?
Look,
For
that's
sure.
a great layout. But hey, we're done. It's a great layout. Seriously, that's a great explanation of what we do. And just going to your point, Mark, I mean, and I started my career, got to be careful. Our first big license deal at SageWorks was with this small outfit called Intuit, the makers of QuickBooks and Quicken.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And I learned very early in my career, my tech career anyway, about the power of ease of use. And, we will be doing a bunch of stuff with AI, but man, you nailed it in the very beginning. It's with technology, it's how easy is it to use and how applicable rather is it to your business. So you nailed it. Absolutely. Keeping things super simple to use. And there's always a trade-off between ease of use and the amount of functionality you have there. So you really got to get close to the customer on what do they really need, to help them out every day.
And did you, and when you try and focus on this, when you're building out a company, and I want to use SageWorks as the beginning because you originally had a consulting business working with entrepreneurs,
Right.
and helping them become successful, right? Like, and to me, I think when I think about it today in 2024, everybody now says, "Oh, he was a coach," because it's like all you hear about is coaches now that want to, help. Oh yeah, let me help you on the business and and grow that. And they don't use consulting as much anymore, right? So it's a well-liked term anymore.
Yeah.
When you were doing this, what were some of the things that you noticed with the entrepreneurs that you were working with that they were like some of the problems that was a very common issue, and some of the issues that you saw where, this is an easy fix?
Yeah. Another great question. So, let's start with the core, the kernel. It doesn't matter whether we're running IBM, Mark, your company, my company, it doesn't matter. It's getting close to the customer, really understanding the customer and really understanding the customer. Now, we all know that as business people. That's obvious. So I know your customer, love your customer, serve your customer. But those are just words, and that's like a bumper sticker. It's what do you do every day to really know your customer? So for example, I was and I don't know how much time we have today, but I'm going to just tell a quick story. But I was in a meeting today with one of the guys I used to work with at SageWorks, and he said, you've become sort of famous in the fintech world. And I go, really? Why? And he goes, I was talking to the CEO of Moody's, and that's a big, huge financial software platform, whatever. And he was saying, did that founder really drive out physically to the customer in Louisiana, in this case, with his dog, which I did. I remember this actually, and sit with the customer, the actual user, and watch the user using the software. Did he do that? And Brad, the guys talking with today, said, yeah, he did that. But the point is, that's what I learned early on in my career. I started and just for the people here, whoever this goes to, is I started with landscaping and window washing and painting. I paid my way through college doing those types of businesses, hands-on stuff, but getting close to that customer and really paying attention. After I did my first service business, my next business, and I got out of graduate school, I had an MBA, and my father worked in a factory. He's like, you're crazy. You're going to start a coin laundromat business. And that was my first sort of professional business out of school. And that helped me so much because it was all about understanding the customer. What do they need? Suggestion boxes, feedback loops, and then integrating that feedback into how you serve that customer. So it's such a great question, but here's the thing. We go to college and we make things complicated. We learn all these complex models and blah, 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 and about technology. Technology is a tool. Technology, it enables you to get closer to the customer, but you've got to actually have that reverence for the customer. And I always look at it this way. I'm a little older than you, I guess, but I used to play football, and this is American football, by the way. But in those days we had 10-game seasons, and I was talking to my son about this weekend. I'm like, And he goes, just the blocking and tackling, right? If you're close to the customer, if you really do that well, and you really nail that, you're sending surveys, but you're not just sending the survey, you're getting feedback. How can we do better? And then you're incorporating that into your product or service. You're going to be an 8-2 team, a 7-3 team. Now, strategically, if we want to get to be 9-1 or 10-0, right, we got to be smart. But I'm telling you, it doesn't matter the business. I've done a lot of them. I've worked with a lot of them. I don't know how many reports we've run out of SageWorks for small businesses. It's like 300 million or something like that. It's crazy. And businesses all over the place. It doesn't matter if you get close to that customer and you do good work and you care about that customer, and then you can, and we have to get to this in a second, you gotta manifest that through your organization for all of your coworkers and your employees. But if you do that, you're 7-3, you're 8-2. Now you may not be 10-0, but I don't know about you, but I will take 7-3 because that's a profitable company that's growing, but it's always about the customer. And I just got one last thing. I want to say this before we move on. I mentioned it. We get the cart before the horse on the technology stuff. The technology stuff is great. And I can do an AI thing and get the inventory. Of course, if I miss a couple items, that might be a problem. But I was in AI very early on at SageWorks. I mean, I developed an AI system, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, that's a vehicle to get closer to that customer, but nothing supplants surveys and calling your customer and getting that rich feedback and making your product or service better from direct feedback with that customer. So, I mean, I could talk about this for...
Mover Marketing AI is changing the game for moving companies with their innovative digital marketing solutions. I've been working with them on my SEO and website, and the results are incredible. My online presence has improved, making my site both visually appealing and highly visible to potential customers. But that's not all they do. Mover Marketing AI offers a full range of services, from engaging social media management to robust branding, advertising, and public relations. They help you build a strong, trustworthy brand. If you're ready to elevate your moving business, I highly recommend Mover Marketing AI. They've been a game changer for me, and they can be for you too. Thanks to Mover Marketing AI for sponsoring this episode and for their support.
Forever. But you're asking me a great question. What did I see with businesses? It doesn't matter. I'm in a hotel right now, a hotel, a McDonald's, or whatever. It doesn't matter. If you're getting that customer feedback, you're listening, you're really showing how much you care about them by making your product or service better, you are going to win. You may not be IBM or you may not be Microsoft, and maybe you don't want to be either, right? But basically, you're going to win.
So when you were looking at about you, I feel like you just unpacked a lot, which is really exciting. I guess I really want to kind of just follow up with when we're talking about AI and having it as a tool than a system that is going to take over someone's job.
Yeah.
What are your,
Yeah.
I mean, the people I talk to,
Wow.
and the world, the way the world is going,
Yeah.
it's everything can be chatbots. We're going to build these systems out so that, this
Yeah.
bot can answer. And as long as you're putting all of the information about your company,
Yeah.
and have enough
Yeah.
examples about different situations and you have enough responses to deal with objections, the bot can do it for you. You don't have to be out
Yeah.
there. I'm using these video surveys because I can just send this to a customer, and when I get it back to them, I can just send them off a quote, send them off an email, and really no one is talking to you until move day.
Yeah, I have
What are your thoughts on
I
that?
have a very strong opinion on that. So where 1 is my opinion and 5 is a mathematical certainty, 5's like 2 + 2 = 4. This is a 2 to 3 because literally our first product, Mark, at SageWorks was a product that's still out there. You can look it up, Profit Sense, and we've generated millions and millions of reports off that thing. That was an early AI product. I think the hype around AI is overblown, period. I don't know if that's true. I could be wrong, but I got a question for you. how is that bot going to pick up a couch and move the darn thing? Meaning, I think it's been overblown. I mean, and I got to cut myself off on this one. If you look at 200 years of the capitalist system, right? We had this thing called the Industrial Revolution. Hey, Marx wrote about this. All the jobs are going to go away. All the factories are,
Sure.
machines do all the work. It didn't happen. What happens is in the cycle that creates maybe some profits, and business people want to make more profit, and they do more things. Things expand, and there's more job creation. So I think I don't know about you, but Mike, I mentioned before, Mark, before our talk, like my kids are in their 20s now. I'm out of the mill. They seem to like me, and they're doing okay. People are busy. People have a lot to worry about. The idea that AI is going to take over the world, I think that should be very low on the checklist. Now, if we can use it as a tool to do an inventory for a moving thing and all that, great. But the thing's not going to pick up a couch. It's that simple. And the core of the business is always going to be around service to the customer. So I like I said to you, I don't remember, wasn't it like 3 years ago, like VR,
Oh, yeah.
I think there's a company called Facebook that might have renamed themselves Meta, right? VR is going to take over everything. And we get these not gimmicks, but these trends that all of a sudden are just going to completely wipe out the world, and it just doesn't happen. I don't believe it.
But you had recently an article that came out that was talking about AI and the way future was going. With something like LiveSwitch, where do you see the next steps for yourself, whether it's investing in another new technology or embracing add-ons to LiveSwitch to make it even more efficient, to make it more simplified for the end user and for the client and the end user? What are your thoughts behind that? Or what are some of the plans, if you don't mind discussing it?
Stuff. Yeah. So, and I'll try to drill down on this. So we always start with you. We always start with the customer, always with the person. Well, they don't write checks anymore, but with the person swiping their credit card or writing the check, we always start there. And then we go to Mark and we go to other people through the country and say, hey man, it would be great in your video if you could do an AI inventory, even if it's not perfect, and that's going to help us do the inventory and maybe figure out the dimensions of the move or whatever you do. You know what I mean? We start there, and then we will fold that into our product. We'll have that stuff, by the way. We will do that. But I want to make sure that it's so easy to use for the mover that it's a slam dunk. So, we're going to do all that type of stuff. We always got to be ahead on the technology, but we always want it to be customer led. And we are getting those requests, by the way. But what people, as you mentioned, I can't outdo you on this, right? Is keeping it so simple to use. The record gets stored automatically. You can access that stuff. We got to make sure we don't lose that.
Is there any new features that are going to be coming out on LiveSwitch that you know about?
Yeah, well, one of them will be an AI type inventory type thing. Right now, again, our as you probably know, we've been out to market like literally like 18 months, and luckily the business is taken off and all that type of stuff. But we'll build that in there, and there's other things we're going to be doing with just the platform. And I don't want to bore anybody on this, but we've got a general purpose platform from which we can build lots of applications. So, we'll be doing a lot of stuff, but with regard to moving specifically, we'll be introducing AI stuff to help people do those inventories. But again, making sure that stuff is easy to use, and it really ultimately reduces the time that it takes you folks to do estimates or do your work.
There's so many questions and not enough time. One of the thoughts that comes to me, especially in someone like your situation, you've turned around, you have built this financial company that ends up being sold.
Right.
And you now have, like you're like Scrooge McDuck, you're like swimming in money. Maybe, who knows? Maybe you have just all of these debts that you're like, oh my God, I'm so glad I sold this company and now I can finally like think clearly. what are those steps? Like, what are those thought processes as an entrepreneur? Like, okay, I have this money now in my bank. I really
Right.
want to invest into something else. You didn't come from a massive financial background to start SageWorks.
Right.
And it's not, you were, yes, okay, in the AI space, but is it just the people you know? I always wonder about this. Is it the people you know? Is it the events that you go to? How do you get in touch with someone like the guys at Frozen Mountain?
Yeah.
And shout out to those guys being from Vancouver.
Yeah.
Like, how does that work?
Yeah. Well, wow. All right. So I'm going to go back. I don't want to go back to my birth on this one, but it's another great question. So I sold my company in 2018, and my boys are, mid-20s, late 20s, and they were a little bit younger than obviously. And, you go through high school and you coach football and parent-teacher conferences, all that. So I went through all that. They're out of the house. They're doing pretty well. It's 2018. It is a nice day, by the way, when you sell your company for anybody. When you're hitting that refresh screen on your bank thing, and all of a sudden the wire comes through. That's a good day. No, I mean, really, it's like, all this work has been for something. So I would say that to anybody. Like when I sold my, I had a little chain coin laundromats. That's a great day, man. Holy crow! So I hope everybody can have that type of event. It's wonderful. But what happened with me, and I'm just going to be real candid. I mean, I'm sitting here 2018. I'm too young to be old and too old to be young. My boys they're doing all right. They don't hate me. They visit me. Things are, pretty good. And I was like, I'm not ready to die. You know what I mean? I'm not,
I got some more life to live here.
Right,
I want to make it rock.
Yeah. My friends sometimes say, you're crazy. Like, I'm working as hard now as I did 20 years ago, but to me, I love it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to go be playing golf all day long. And at that point, just to answer your question, I was looking for number one, good dudes. Number one, good dude. I mean, Mark, think about your life, right? It doesn't matter whether you have like a landscaping business with 4 employees or you got 4,000 employees. It doesn't matter. You want to have good people. I was lucky because I ran into this guy, Jared Venema, out of Vancouver. I mentioned him, and a really good guy, great, nice. His wife's a peach. I mean, just great people, and you just know it when you see it. So you want to work with people you like. You want to be in an industry that you like. I never did moving. I've done a lot of things with my hands, but landscaping, painting. I like to move. I like physically moving. So any business where I'm moving, I like to do it. I don't, you could, I want to make money, but I'd almost do it for free, right? So point one, you got to be around people who you respect and that you like, or maybe even love a little bit, right? Number two, you got to do something that you like doing. I wanted to be an industry that's growing, and I'm a product entrepreneur. I'm looking at your product right here, and I'm, looking at the screens and some of the, and I like tinkering. Like, how do we make this easier to use? What's a mark clip? I'm a tinkerer. So I love looking at products and how I'm going to make them better. And I go into this hotel here and the fan doesn't work. I'm like, why would they make it so hard to use? I love that stuff. So, it's just like basic stuff. You want to do stuff that you love to do. But I always say, it's so hokey, isn't it? But the older I get, the more hokey and old fashioned I get about this stuff. I want to be around good people because,
Right.
And can I swear on this a little bit? Maybe just a bit.
Yeah, sure can.
Yeah. So when the shit hits the fan, and it always does, I don't know whether this is going to one company or, 10 billion, it doesn't matter. The defecation's always going to hit the fan. You're always going to have stress points. And you need people who are strong, who are going to be with you. And, I've been lucky, Mark. I mean, it's not false humility. I mean, it's really not.
So you meet him, you see the company and everything else. I'm assuming he gives you a bit of a pitch, right? And says, okay, like, this is kind of what we're working on. We're doing like this. And was LiveSwitch, because there's like a 2-parter to this, right? Because if you go to, I think, was it liveswitch.io?
That's
you
right.
get the main,
the platform,
the platform of it. And then you actually have the other application of it. and we don't need to dissect into all of
Sure.
those things,
Yeah.
but you're meeting with them, you see this, hey, you know what, this guy's a great guy. I really have enjoyed our conversation. I like the pitch. I love the idea. And like, do you go, how much is it to invest? Like, I always run into guys that are doing something. I'm like, how do I get in? Like, how do I go in?
Do they swim in Canada, or is it too cold there? You dive in the pool. I mean, look, I imagine this is you're an entrepreneur. All entrepreneurs, you just dive in the pool. Like at some point you analyze the industry, you look at the people, you got to do your homework. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But when we got in here, man, don't send this to Jared. He's the greatest sales guy in the world. My God, only he could have gotten me off the bench to the extent that I'm in right now, in terms of my involvement and everything. But on a serious note, you go through the books, you do this, you look at the market, you do your research, Gartner reports and all that. But at the end of the day, this, you just dive in, and that's what we did. Now, I was lucky, or am lucky, maybe. I was able to bring a bunch of people from my last company over to this company. And I always say, I can't believe anybody would work for me twice. It's crazy,
Hi, my name's Tim Krupp. I'm the owner of Krupp Moving and Storage in Worcester, Ohio. We also have branches in Akron, Ohio, and Columbus. I started my companies in 2005. In 2018, I heard about USA Home Listings, and I believe I was actually like one of their first people to actually like sign up for their program, and started doing mailers, and it completely revolutionized my business. That year we saw a 40% increase. And all the way back then, we were only doing, prior to USA Home Listings, we were doing about $1 million a year. First year with USA, we were like 1.4, and I think that was 2018. 2022, we'll do just at right about $10 million. And USA Home Listings still remains our #1 marketing source. It outperforms everything else. So if you want to elevate your business to the next level, give USA Home Listings a call, get the free trial, get started today. What are you waiting for?
But what kind of people are you trying to bring over though? Like high execs, people that are programming?
Both.
Like, who are some? Both.
Both, yeah. I mean, Margaret came over, Jack came over, we had Jackie, a whole bunch of people relative to our size. Remember, we're still a small outfit.
Sure.
We've got like 70 employees. So we were able to bring over like, I think about maybe 10, 15 people from my old company. They had, what happened is I saw my company, they sort of drifted to other companies, and I just got the band back together. So, but that's nice, because then you've got a rhythm and people know you,
For sure. Do you look at tech companies when you're looking at something like this? Like when I think of someone and you're like, oh yeah, we're a small company of like 70 people.
Right.
Is there some of the aspects that you look at when you sit there on the chair and you're sitting there with Jared and the group of guys going, look, we have this idea, we have this process, or like this software that we want to build.
Yep.
Do we want to develop it so that it is hitting so many different multiple platforms of users, as opposed to we want to just aim into this one direction? Because when I think of think of SageWorks, okay, well, I'm not going to use it in my office, right? It doesn't really apply to me. It applies more to banks and investment companies. But and you went that direction, which is great. And a lot of companies do that. That's what they try and do. When I look at LiveSwitch, I think, geez, like, you probably didn't even think you'd be on a podcast that's strict to moving companies, because moving companies are really enjoying the usage of this.
Right.
But other trades could be using this, all these other people. So like, is that something that you guys think about when you're designing a type of software to go, hey, like we could actually chop this up and really focus on so many different areas of businesses?
Wow. I mean, just again, going back to ancient history, SageWorks. So we developed an expert system, i.e. an AI product, and it was a general purpose financial analysis platform. It's still used even now, right? But what happens is we target it, Mark, at accountants. And I kind of regret that because that really could have gone to a lot of different industries. So one of the things we're tasked with here, it's a challenge. Like, yeah, do we only sell to movers? Do we only sell to, a landscaping firm or tree service or whatever? And I think where we've opted is to focus on the trades. If you're using your hands for the stuff you do and you don't want to go out and drive out and see somebody, if you need good documentation for the work you're doing, then, we're the company for you. So it's a little broader than it was at SageWorks. And I kind of wish I kept it a little bit broader at SageWorks. So I don't want to make the same mistake here, which is to develop a vertical only for landscapers. But it's also we got to make sure we do what we purport to do for the customer. So you follow the customer. There's no science on it.
I'm always one of those guys, and a lot of CRM companies hate me in the moving industry because I nitpick, and I'm kind of like not so much a tinker, but I will go, why aren't you doing this? And how do you do this?
Yeah,
And why is it not that easy to just add this function on here?
Yeah.
Am I totally over my head, just like what you're thinking? Like, why am I going into a hotel room and this fan's not working? And why is it simply function where it's just an easy button that says three different steps, 1, 2, and 3, gives me the 3 different settings and an on and off button. Thank you very much. The fan's working. When it comes to a CRM system or any kind of application, when I look at something like, and we're going to leave off the LiveSwitch shortly because I want to talk about a bunch of other things. But, when you are looking at going, okay, well, for movers, they kind of want to have an inventory list. So we have to have developers building this. So we can take the same platform and say, well, this other company might need it for measuring. So every time you have a video, it maybe has like a measuring hole or whatever stick because it can now analyze for builders, something. I have no idea, right? But, there's different aspects to it. Is it really that hard to produce something like that easy, or to have just a print button? I mean, it's just a UI.
I'm goofing on. I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to be freewheeling here a little bit. But that's a iPod. I mean, that's a whatever Apple computer charger, right? And it's falling out of the wall. And so, why did they not put that plug in a better place, or that whatever the thing is, the metal thing, so that it actually could be, appended to that wall better. So I'm one of those guys, like, all day long. I'm maybe you're like this too. How can we do it easier? And that's something that, well, tech companies really suck at that. Let's be honest. Most tech companies, I mean, I hate doing this. Am I disparaging the competition? Maybe a little bit, but I don't mean to. I really don't mean to. I figure, look, they're in the water with us, and we don't really focus on conference apps. All right. You go to the Zoom meeting and there's 8 people. We've got a product that does it, but we don't focus on it. Now, Mark, just think about, in your experience in the last 6 years, right? Think about this. Like, you probably might go to Teams or go to Zoom. Think about how hard that's become. Oh my goodness. All I want to do, man, is get into the meeting. I want to get into the meeting. Right. I want to see someone, hear them. That's all I want to do. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing. And I'm going to get sued, I guess. I'm not a big Microsoft fan, but literally I've been invited to these Teams meetings and I can't get in. I get in once in a while, or it takes me 20 minutes. And by the way, this is pretty good software, whoever these guys are. I got in about, 30 seconds, a minute, or there was a couple of quirks in it, but it's pretty good. But you look at Teams and now Zoom, and I got to download an app. And so you get
the random person that's using Google Meets and you're like, oh no, here's another one.
Oh yeah. Well, so here's the thing in tech. Technologists like me, we love add this, add that, add this, add that. The key, and I think this is true in any product-based business, is reduction. Steve Jobs had a very famous quote that I'm misquoting. The key to great product is subtraction, not addition. Right in here, man, I mean, what do we really need here? I mean, I guess you need echo cancellation, whatever that is, but maybe I do, or maybe I do. I guess maybe I do. I don't know. Let me try it. Right. But what are the necessary buttons? And so this is an opportunity. I don't know who's going to be listening to this. If you're in tech, or really, I would say anything, even moving your website, look at your website, do focus groups on your website, ask the person to fill out a form. Seriously, really, Mark, in moving, you guys probably have websites, right? I imagine you do. And you might have forms or this, that. But ask the customer to use it. You will be amazed where they get stuck. So to me, I'm reduce. That's why I hedged a little bit on the AI thing. I don't know when that's going to be out. But I want to make sure our product is super easy to use. So when we add that little button, that gets stored in the right file and is easy to use. But again, I'm not answering your question. It's always a matter of judgment. There's no rule to it. It's sort of, in football, we called it a feel for the ball. You know what I mean? And you got to have a feel for the ball on it. But just ease of use, man. If we really think about the tech you use. I just made the mistake of buying a new car. I don't, I have an advantage of being in tech, Mark. I'm not, I don't love technology for technology. I'm telling you got me 3 days to drive the car. I just want to turn it on. I can't use a key anymore. They got rid of those, right? And I want to get it from point A to point B. So for anybody, even but like in moving, always think of the customer, how easy it is to use that product or engage with your company, and you're going to win. But that's a lot of words.
Two points on this one. It just made me remember I was traveling and heading to a wedding, and at the rental place, they said, "Do you want to upgrade to a Tesla?" And I was like, "Sure," because I've only driven gas vehicles. I haven't driven a Tesla other than a friend that already has it started, and maybe right when the Tesla X first came out, I jumped in one of those. But I was interested in possibly getting into an electric vehicle.
Right.
They handed me a card, like a credit card for the Tesla. There's no key. And she said, "Have a great day." And I got in.
I didn't know
and
that.
was like, how do I go backwards? How do I move forwards? How do I even get this car to start to get going? There was nothing. Yes, and it's no hit to Tesla, because people are going to be like, "Mark, you're an idiot. It's actually really easy." But there was nothing was explained to me by the actual person that was doing it. And I think that's really important as well too, when yes, you have a tech software, yes, you have anything, whether it's moving or something. My biggest pet peeve is when a moving consultant or any moving company that is talking to a customer starts talking in their lingo. No one knows what a 2-cube is and a 4-cube. What's a wardrobe box? What's a dolly? Is it a 4-wheeler? Is it 2-wheeler? I'm probably throwing all kinds of lingo over you, Brian, that you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. To a customer, they don't either. So you can build this simplified software, but if you're not actually explaining it to it, if you don't give someone, the playbook of here's a simple task of what we offer, what we do, you're failing. At the end of the day,
you're making me jump through the screen. Let me tell. Do we have time?
Go for it.
We good? Okay. Yeah. Let me tell you a story, and it has nothing to do with me. Our first big license deal was Intuit. I learned so much there in a year. It was unbelievable. We had 3 employees, and we licensed to Intuit. We shipped with QuickBooks. It's crazy. This is the year 2001. The story about Intuit, when they started out, this is how weird these guys are, and they could only get away with this in California. They would go to an Office Depot. Did they have those in Canada? Office Max or whatever. They would go and they would watch people pick up the box for Quicken. They used to sell software in a box, by the way, for people who are younger, right?
Who has no idea. For sure.
They're like, what, a box? But they watch the person. They didn't know the person. Buy the Quicken, go to the cash register, pay for it. And then they would follow the person home. Now, remember, they didn't know this person. They'd get out of when the person got home, they get out of the car and say, "Hey, I'm from Intuit. We noticed that you bought Quicken. Can you imagine this? Would you mind if we watched you use our software And you get, only in California could they get away with this. They get arrested anywhere else. And the person's like, yeah, I guess so. They go in the house and they would, Mark, check this out. You remember, you're young, but in these boxes, they shrink wrap. Who does the shrink wrapping? You can't open the thing.
Oh,
So
yeah, for sure.
they got the box and they would actually look at the tenacity or whatever that word is of how hard it is to get that plastic open. And they would watch everything and watch them load it. To your point about the Tesla, they would watch everything to make that user experience and using that product easy to use. And so it were only, they actually developed the first, I don't know if you know this, but the first user acceptance testing and all that. They're such innovators there. But that taught me so much, that story. And most tech companies, and like you said, lingo. Oh, I was on a meeting yesterday. I know something about tech. I'm not, super technical, but I know something. I could SaaS and cloud and all that. I could throw in all these things by you, but you're right. When you're talking to your customer, meet them where they are. I mean, I was talking about this. You see, Mark, that's empathy, right? Are you with me? Like, in other words, yeah, I'm talking in your language. I keep telling our guys, don't send this to them, please. They'll be mad at me because I'm talking to them every single day. Guys, be the customer. The customer doesn't know what a squidgety squadgety is. They don't know what 3 bars are going across the screen. I prefer a nice little house that's a home. You see what I mean? So these are the details that make great companies. And, and it's the details. It's not just, oh, I want to go do a rocket to Saturn or whatever. It's the tiny details that really go into the product.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, I want to keep carrying on. I want to try and transition to something else because to me, it's like, it is so important. And when you think about the moving industry, you are dealing with one of the most stressful times of someone's life.
Yeah.
Whether it's death or marriage. The interesting part is people always say, well, the top 3 most stressful things is one is being moved. But a lot of times what people forget is that empathy factor where that person just had a death or that person is excited because they're moving, but they're moving in with their partner for the first time maybe, or, they have in-laws that are planning on moving into the basement suite or like all kinds of stuff. And there's all these different stress factors and people aren't going into their house. All they think about is either the sale or, hey, I'm here to move your furniture and get in and get out and forget to even smile or say, how was your day? How are you doing? And stop and do that. And I think that's very important.
Actually, boy, you taught me something today. I never thought of that. You're right. Moving is like, I got married, God forbid there's a death in the family or, I'm going to college or I don't know, whatever it is. Do you guys do training in that kind of, like, in other words, do you like letting I don't know if they're technicians or the movers, letting them there's training in that probably. That's a way.
There is. I feel like there's not enough. I mean, I would say that we'd be failing in that aspect if I was saying, oh yeah, we do tons of training on customer empathy and customer service. I feel like it's a personal trait. It's what we look for when we hire people, like you said earlier, about hiring the right people, about working with people that you get along with, and you can really see the charisma behind their eyes and that twinkle. Yeah, we also look for that when we're looking for employees, because you can be this big burly guy that can pick up a car and no problem moving a bunch of furniture. But if you're a total asshole on the job site, I don't want you working for me. Right. And the reverse goes to, you could be, the nicest guy in the world, but if you're tripping over everything and breaking everything, you're also not. So also, again, finding that even ground of, can we train you? And I'd rather take the happy person that can be trained than the big guy that can move anything that has a chip on his shoulder. So,
wow.
And that's the importance.
I'm Mark Hirschi with Salmon's Moving and Storage. Today, I want to talk about tying up training. Why? Because this is Netflix grade quality training. It's not those old videos and VHSs that you got hiding in your office somewhere. It's online, it's easy to use, they're short videos, but they get to the point. My new employees, these guys run through these training programs. There's tests at the end, and they're coming out going, oh, I'm ready to rock. So if you haven't checked out Tighten Up Training yet, get a demo done. Get on board. Guess what else is there? Online portals for my sales staff. Can you believe it? These guys can learn how to overcome objections and book more leads today. So what are you waiting for? Go check out Tighten Up Training today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, sorry.
now,
One comment on it real fast.
yeah.
I used to, as I mentioned, I'm throwing a lot in here, but I used to cut lawns in high school and college. And, I used to say to my guys, hey, anybody can cut a lawn, man. I mean, anybody can cut a lawn. But when you're done cutting that lawn and you do the trimming, you go to the customer and say, look, is there something I missed? Is there anything else I can do? And that was our little thing. And that little thing of empathy, of just asking that extra question, you'd be shocked how often that would lead to a referral. And we all live by referrals. So your point's really well taken. But
I watch young entrepreneurs, whether you are that teenager that is cutting lawn, whether you are starting off and going, well, I wouldn't say getting into the coin laundry business, because in most areas now it's becoming a lot more efficient to have laundry machines in your apartments. You see that a lot more now. But kudos to you for getting into it at that stage in that period, because that was kind of like the shit that people were like, hey, like get into the coin laundry business. It's good money in it. You get a chain going. But my point behind it is that I watch now a lot of like, whether you're handyman, whether you're installers, whether you're doing these small tasks, and I even watch our movers about how you perform on the job site to the small details. And because the small details are so important, I had a guy over that was mounting a TV at my home, and I've had it before, and I usually always try someone differently, because I like to test out the different companies and see what they're doing. And amazing guy, great customer service, let me know when he was on his way, was very polite, and getting everything done, but left the garbage and left stuff on the side. Now people might be like, well, what's the big deal?
No,
to me, you did a job. You brought something into my house.
Yes.
You brought the packaging. You should be take the packaging away.
Yeah.
It's the same thing I tell guys too. It's like, if you shrunk wrap furniture and you use the shrink wrap around the furniture, don't leave it at the customer's house. Take it with you at the end of the job. Make sure that house looks as clean as it was the day you stepped in there. Because there's going to be that one customer that says, oh, they left this garbage here, or like, why is this roll of tape here? They really didn't ask me about putting together my table, just like you're talking about the lawn business. So that point to me, and I resonate with it, because it's
it's a beautiful point. It's a game of inches. It's a game of inches. Like, and again, not to disparage anybody, but I made the mistake. Don't ever do it. I built a house, and I'm like, guys, come on. Because I was a general contractor. I get it. It's hard work. I did it. I mean, I get it. But dude, when you come here, take your crap away, man. Don't just leave all that stuff on my property. So a game of inches, and it makes such a big difference in the collective experience of your customers. So well, Mark, and even in our business, we're calling our customers every single week and, hey, how you doing? What can we do? What can we, and we're really institutionalizing that in the company to get everybody on the customer. But
I see that because earlier today I had a phone call from LiveSwitch for follow-up to make sure how everything's going with the program. So you guys are definitely on it. So kudos to your team. The Brian Hamilton Foundation. Is this what rich people do eventually? You have all this money and you're like, I got to give back. Let's build a website and have some philanthropy behind that. Like, what made you start a foundation, and what is the main cause of that foundation?
Well, 1992, I was hanging out with this guy, still a friend, Robert H. Harris, comes a Black Baptist minister out of Oxford, North Carolina. I'm a white Irish Catholic guy from the northeast of the U.S., and we became friends, just peanut butter and jelly type deal. And he did prison ministry, and he would go around to the prisons and, hey, I don't want to call it Bible thumping, but kind of, preaching, right? And
Sure.
I just like being with Rev. I just love being with him. This is 1992. It's a long time ago. And during one of the breaks, during one of the Bible things, sessions or whatever, one of the inmates came up to me in an orange jumpsuit, the whole thing. I remember it like it was yesterday. And I making small talk, and I'm like, hey, what are you going to do when you get out of prison? He goes, oh, I'm going to go get a job. And I was like, oof, I didn't say anything. You don't want to discourage anybody, but I'm like, that might be hard to do with a record. You know what I mean? And that was the light bulb moment for Inmates to Entrepreneurs, which was my that's flagship, charity type thing. I started it in 92 with Rev. It's, I guess, 32 years old now. We've helped like 1 million people. And so this is what happens, Mark, with regard to people like me. He's a nice guy and all that. It's not really true, especially if you ask my kids. But really, as an entrepreneur, right, you'll relate to this. Hey, what are you going to do when you get out of prison? I'm going to get a job. I'm like, oof, that might be hard. Instead of getting a job, let's help you start your own service business, a moving business, a landscaping business, something like that. Let's get you in business for yourself because it might be hard to get a job. So to answer your question, it was really the result of just trying to solve a problem. And now look at 32 years later, we have an independent board. It's like this big thing. We're in like 14 countries, whatever it is. And so to me, it's always about solving problems. You see what I mean? Like,
What do you think? And you look at the in our society, especially those that are incarcerated and are in prison. A lot of them either came from, and I'm not trying to, pinpoint different people, but they've either come from a troubled past, but bad upbringing, probably lived in areas where maybe the school systems weren't very good, the teachers maybe weren't teaching efficiently. A lot of people, especially when you think of back in the 80s, things like ADHD, autism wasn't a thing.
Yeah,
People
exactly,
thought, hey, this kid's an idiot, and he just needs to sit outside for most of his life. And there was no proper one-on-one teaching. There was no education behind it. People were naive and uneducated on different aspects of people's lives. And some of the most amazing and successful entrepreneurs all have some sort of ADHD that I talk to. Right. Because it's just kind of like it's their way of their life, and most of them too, when you talk to them, weren't that great in school. They were either defined, they were great independently, but maybe not great in social communities, or great with the teacher because they probably thought the teacher was an idiot because they already answered the question in their head 10 minutes ago. Right. When you're in these situations, to have someone like yourself to go in and go, oh, that's great. I'm really excited for you when you want to try and find a job. Let's help get you a business. I can only imagine their eyes widening up going, never thought about that. How does that look like? Oh, wow. The excitement behind them must be just a sense of like this amazing sense of reward in your heart by helping a lot of these inmates. And it turned into a show as well, too, on ABC.
Yeah, it did. I was, I always get a kick out of it when I read it's like a TV star, but it was like, we did a show with ABC called Free Enterprise. It was fun. It's the one job I've done in my life that I just sort of was myself, and I love doing it. But you're right. Reverend Harris had an expression, just for everybody, because people listening to this might not be in prison, but he goes, you don't have to be in prison to be locked up in your mind. There's a lot of people, a lot of suffering, and your point is well taken. Not everybody, and there's no excuses. We're all entrepreneurs, and inmates to entrepreneurs. We're all entrepreneurs. We're very direct with people. No excuses. I'm sorry your dad was not so nice, but tough luck. Let's move forward. However, your point's well taken. It's not a level playing field. Absolutely not. And there's a lot of people out there who have really had Mark, nobody's ever gone to them and said, hey, have you thought about starting a business? You see what I'm saying? Wow. Poverty of the mind.
100%.
And that's kind of what we're combating, the way people think about themselves. And like you, you're so nice. You're asking me so many questions, I guess, because it's your podcast, but I'd like to know about, your background. But you mentioned something too, by the way. I mean, it's a great point. I remember I'm older than you, but do they have Captain Crunch in Canada? Do they?
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
Isn't it great? It's a great, but it's I love it. But they would, in my generation, right? They'd pump you full of Captain Crunch, and I remember being in school, man, and I'm not kidding, I'm not exaggerating. I would grab my desk, man. I had so much energy. I was a horrible student. I hated school. I barely passed, but so much energy, and so you're right. Not all entrepreneurs. There's entrepreneurs who are good students too, but we're kind of misfits, It's really true. We don't really fit exactly into the hole the right way, and I can so relate to that. So if we can empower, and by the way, we've got people in Canada in our Inmates to Entrepreneurs program coming to our things, but if we can empower people to be entrepreneurs, then they learn about wealth and self-empowerment, and that's what makes things work,
Working with entrepreneurs, and I'm going to lead back to my first question before we wrap this up. And I ask this to a lot of business folks like yourself that have been around people like myself that are younger, that are trying to grow their business, everything else.
Right.
What would you tell either your younger self or someone that was looking to get into the business? What are some of the 5 tips that you would tell them that you wish you knew already back in the 90s as you were growing and starting SageWorks and kind of getting your businesses going, that you wish someone would have told you to say, hey, like, this is what you need to be doing running a business?
Let me start with, okay, this is great, by the way. Number 1, you're not as smart as you think you are. When I was younger, testosterone and I'm strong and the smartest guy, is learn from other people, read, ask questions, stay close to the customer, be humble. We have this thing, I'll try to keep it super tight, Mark, but called peer review, PEER. Hey, you might not be right, man. Go ask somebody, peer review. Hey, I'm thinking about doing this in the company. Get some feedback, but be open. Mark, I've worked with thousands of people in prison, entrepreneurs out of prison. The thing that determines our success is not where we are, but where we're growing to. And if you're not open and you're not open to learning, you're not going to make it. Number 2, goals, things to look forward to. There's people, I don't know, me, I'm dealing with stuff, a tech company, there's always problems, right? Your goal has to be higher than your resistance. Your goal has to be higher than your problems. You got to always be writing your goals on. Keep your desires got to be here, and it's got to be higher than your problems. We don't want our problems up here to be higher than our goals. So I would say goals and being open. And are you willing to get better? And that requires humility, and that is hard for people, especially guys. So I don't have 5, but I got 2.
That was 2. I was waiting for number 3, and you just stopped. I was like,
No,
where's more? Give me more. Give me more.
Was it meatloaf? 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I gave you 2 out of 5, but I'd start there.
I like it. Well, thank you so much, Brian, for joining us today. It was even better because now we really kind of kept on time for it. If anybody wants to know more information about Brian, how can they hit you up? BrianHamilton.org.
Very easy. Brian@BrianHamilton.org. That's an easy one. Brian@BrianHamilton.org. Yeah.
Perfect. And for those interested, there'll be some links on here as well too to LiveSwitch if you're looking to do a demo and you're in the moving industry and you want to learn how to enhance this opportunity for your customers, from doing video calling to handling claims. You can always send me more information about how we're doing it as well too. And thank you so much, Brian. I really appreciate it.
Great to be here, Mark. Great questions, by the way.
No problem. And for all those listeners, stay Movified, everybody, and have a great week.